right, good afternoon, guys. This is our second installment of a little Q&A with Nick, and today we're actually get to have Molly Leak with us as well. So we're going to ask Nick some questions and some that some members of our church have asked, and we'll find out some great answers that he has. So the first one I got as soon as we did this last week was somebody wanted to know a little bit more extensive information about your college football playing career at Newberry. So if you will elaborate a little bit on that and tell us a little bit about football at Newberry,
Okay.
and maybe even high school too.
Well, I wouldn't call it much of a career. I did say that when I stopped playing football, I retired to go into broadcasting, like a lot of football players do. I played all through college, or all through high school, 4 years high school, at Hanahan High School, 3 years of varsity football. Was a defensive lineman, and I had a little sack dance that I would do. It was actually from an Energizer. If you're familiar with Energizers, I would do the lawnmower, and I would crank it, and I'd get a sack, and then I'd mow the lawn. And that was my sack dance. And so in high school, our announcer would give you silly nicknames to intimidate the other team. And so our best football player, his name was Lionel, and his nickname was the Freight Train, and he was a running back. He actually played at Clemson and was a linebacker, ended up being a linebacker at Clemson. But my nickname was Nick the Lawnmower Man Setzer, because I did the lawnmower dance thing. And so if we go back to Charleston together, you might see people recognize me and say, the Lawnmower Man. But that stays here and doesn't get spread any further. Going to Newberry, I walked on. I had an academic scholarship. I was redshirted my freshman year and then played very sparingly my sophomore year and into my junior year. We had a coaching change in the midst of that, and I played offensive line, which I just despised. I liked playing defensive line a lot better. Even though, the offensive line were good buddies of mine. Sorry, friends, if you're watching, but I preferred defense, and then just decided it was too much. So, one, I didn't get a ton of playing time, so that was disparaging, even though I should have applied myself better and worked harder at it. I recognize that now. But it was a job. Mm-hmm. It was 14 hours a day job with school. And so, you were waking up, you were doing, all the freshmen had to do a breakfast check, and it was partially to make sure they're getting up and going to class, which I understand, but you had to go to breakfast, and then you had to go to the trainer, and then you lifted weights, and then you went to your classes, and then you watched film, and then you had practice, and then you ate dinner, and then you were supposed to do your homework. Mm-hmm. And so by the time the day was out, I was so tired, and I had to wake up early again, and it was every day, all year long. And so Lazy Nick decided, this is enough. I just want to hang out with my buddies. I wanted to focus on broadcasting, and so that was the end of my playing career. There was not many highlights in that, although we did beat PC, which all of you PC grads, that was a big rivalry back in my playing days, and so we beat PC 2 times while I was there, which was amazing. It had been a while. We had a drought in beating PC for a while, and then we beat PC, and then they could not handle it and said, we're moving up a level and going to be the low man on the totem pole in Division I football, and they left Division II and the SAC. So, oh well. Yeah. So that's, in a nutshell, my very little college career. Actually, I haven't been back to Newberry in a while, but we changed jerseys, and so our old jerseys, some of the restaurants in town wanted them to display. So if you go to Burger King, you'll see my number 66 on the wall, and it's because it was the cleanest jersey out there that they could find.
Very good, very good. A question we received, in the absence of a DCE, any short-term plans for our youth or children?
First and foremost is we're not going to forget our youth and our children and those programmings. We have great leaders on the Family Life Committee, and we've already begun discussions on how to keep that program going, and it also means involving more volunteers, because that position, there were a lot of ins and outs, and we had a full-time person, and we can't just let that drop. During the pandemic, it's going to be very difficult to fill and difficult to do things together, but we're going to try and pick up that slack. I do have a pretty big background in youth ministry, and I've met with the youth and played some 9 Square and was there to farewell to Sonia, but I think that's kind of starting a relationship with them and getting that program still going, making them feel still loved and having things for them to do in the church. I think we talked last week about multi-generational worship, and so that's one of the things we did talk about over lunch together was Sonia was saying he could be a liturgist and she could be a liturgist, and they like to do this, and so that was nice to see, and they were interested.
Talk to us a little bit about the church's kind of sort of plan of reopening or getting people back in for worship. Anything you can elaborate on that?
Right. Session met just last Sunday, and this was one of the big parts of our conversation as a session because we want to be back together. We want to be worshiping together. We want to see each other, but we want to do it as safe as possible. And so what we've done is we've commissioned a task force. It's essentially the worship committee, plus a couple of other people and myself. And we're going to be looking at what other churches are doing, how they're going about going back to in-person worship, what the guidelines and safety regulations are there, what needs to happen, mask, sanitation, spacing, all those issues that come with being back in person, because we want to keep everyone safe. And then another big part is we want to keep live streaming. So we want to make sure that there is an option if you don't feel comfortable coming back to worship. And we understand that. So getting the right technology so that we can properly and have a good sound quality and video quality of live streaming a service so that those that are not wanting to come back necessarily into the building can be able to worship with us. The other one is we selected a place and we selected a target date. So when we do come back, we're going to meet in the Family Life Center. We feel like we can space a little better there. I personally think it's good because we all love our own pews and our seats that are safe spots. And in the Family Life Center, we don't have those places, so it'll be a little easier to say, all right, this household stays right here. And I use the word household on purpose because even though we're family and we're all family, we're going to want to sit together with our family, but it needs to be household. That's one of the safer ways to do it. And then our target date. We're targeting August 2nd. That's the first Sunday in August. And that is called a target date on purpose because we still don't know what the next month holds, unfortunately. And so we want to see how the pandemic is going and what the numbers are doing before we make an official decision to come back. We have a target date of the 2nd. Session meets the Sunday before that, and we're going to do a live stream and worship with the session to make sure we have all the kinks worked out as well. So we have plans, we're working on it, and we want to be together, but we want to do it in a safe, proper way.
Any kind of piggybacking on that, is there any specific things that Presbytery or guidelines that we already know are going to be some things that we'll have to do differently in that type of worship? I know there'll be more specific things to come, or any things that we already know are going to be masks or stuff like that.
Yeah, so Presbytery has been very helpful. They have kind of their own task force in helping churches get back to in-person worship. If you have friends in other churches in the Presbytery, some are already worshiping in person together. We as a session just didn't feel like it was the right time. But the Presbytery has some guidelines, as well as the greater PCUSA denomination has some guidelines that we're trying to basically gather all the information we can so that we can make the best decisions possible as a task force moving forward in worship. Again, we're taking this very seriously. We want to wear masks, we want to be sanitized, we want to be spaced, but we also want to worship. There'll be things like, singing. I think it'd be fun that the choir sang and we hummed along, because maybe that won't be as transmitting as much germs. But again, I need to do more reading, and so I don't even know if humming could be. I know kazoos would be out of the picture, but humming maybe would work, and that would be a lot of fun. You can make a joyful noise either way.
Some would be better that
That's
way.
right. Yeah. So we have a lot of things to consider, and we're doing that as we move forward. Again, I want to reiterate, safe as possible. Safe as possible.
Agreed. A question about different places you've lived before.
Yeah.
How many different states, the states you've been in before, lived in?
So grew up in South Carolina, went to college in South Carolina, then moved to Georgia, lived in Georgia for about 8 years through seminary, and then post-seminary working at a church, and then had our first child, our Georgia peach, even though Georgia peaches, as you will know, are not as good as South Carolina peaches. And I will say that till the cows come home. Eliana, our Georgia peach, and then moved to Texas, and we were there for 5 years. So we have Oscar, who is our Texas baby, and then back to South Carolina. So really, it's only been 3 states, but I have a lot of family all over the place.
Okay.
So Mia's from Utah, so we go to Utah 2 or 3 times a year if we can, and it's beautiful. If you've never been to Salt Lake, please go. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I have a lot of family from Kentucky. My maternal side are we're coal miners in eastern Kentucky, and so have a lot of family in Kentucky. We go back every year to Kentucky for a family reunion. My dad's side is Maryland, Virginia area, so that's why I'm a diehard Redskins fan, and we go to Maryland. My grandmother still lives there with my uncle and my aunt, and cousins there, so we have a lot of family in Maryland.
All right, well, I think that's the kind of questions we had today. You got any for us or anything?
I have a lot of questions.
Oh, gosh.
So, and my wife, who's very organized, said, here, ask these questions. But I'll just throw a couple out for y'all or for the congregation to answer back. And they're basic life necessity type questions, okay? What is your favorite thing to do with a young family? And I know both of y'all have families that were once younger. What you have a couple hours on a weekend. What do you go and do?
Well, this is going to be a pre-pandemic response.
Yes, exactly.
During non-pandemic. I know mine love to go to Carowinds. Go to a little theme park.
I grew up going to Carowinds.
Yes.
I don't know if I fit on the rides anymore, but there was a time,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
and I love the rides.
Carowinds is a wonderful thing. We've gone a couple of times. There's people will go tube down the Catawba River.
Oh,
That's a pretty
nice.
good little fun little activity to do for an afternoon. So those are a couple of things that we enjoy doing.
Depending on the time of year, we like to, of course, if it's football season, so pre-COVID-19, we take our camper and we'll go into Columbia on a Friday and spend the weekend
Yeah.
camping for home Carolina football games. And then, other different places that we like to go camping, to go tubing while we're camping, just something that we always like to do. Lake Watery is a nice camping spot. It's a quick drive, give you
Yeah.
some access
Yeah.
to the water. If we're staying local, we live out in Cotton Belt community, so out that way, we like to ride ATVs.
Oh, fun.
Have some good family time on the farm. We live on the farm that my mom was born on back in 1937, and live there with all my brothers and sisters. So Emma Louise, even though she's an only child, she has nieces and nephews that live out there too. So we do a lot of stay-at-home time or head out in the camper kind of thing.
Nice. And so you're telling me I need to get a camper, and I need to get
Yes.
ATV
Yes,
and a boat.
yes.
You didn't say it, but I'm going to say it for
I'm
this.
gonna
That
say it,
we need
yes.
those three. Okay,
We
good
need-
to know.
You need those items.
Within a 4-hour radius, you can go to the beach and you can ski and go to the mountains.
Right.
It's a pretty awesome little area. We're pretty close to about everything.
Yeah.
Columbia's 2 hours, Clemson's 2 hours, the beach is 3, get the mountains in 2.5, so it's not very far. Montreat in less than 2. So.
Yes, of course, some priorities.
Mhm.
Yes. That's what I have for now. And I want to encourage more questions. We're going to do this a couple more times. And what do you want to know about me? I'm an open book. So I even tell you silly nicknames I got. So give me your questions.
Lawnmower's a pretty good one.
I want to see that in TikTok.
Yes.
TikTok.
I do specialize in energizers, so I'm happy to dance.
Gotcha.
Well noted.
Well, thank you so much, and we enjoyed talking to you today, and we'll get some more questions for next week, and we'll have some more to talk about then.
Very good. Look forward to it.
Sounds great.
Thank you.